Beetlejuice Beetlejuice did a huge Thursday night opening. So if you want to get tickets this weekend, you better jump in the line. The sequel to 1988's Tim Burton comedy. What's 36 years between friends?
Yes, people just keep saying his name and he just keeps showing up. Once again, Michael Keaton is the ghost with the most. This is very much the kind of sequel that we have seen in like Axel F and various Ghostbusters, and we'll get into all that as far as how it tries to tap into nostalgia but also be something new. We're here all fall long with movies like this, so come hang out with us and subscribe to the channel if you have not. We would love to see you.
Bob, you and the boys stand guard. Nobody gets through.
Once again, we have Winona Ryder being kind of goth and kind of dark and brooding. Her daughter is played by Jenna Ortega. Her name is Astrid, and they are sort of estranged from each other. And Lydia has been estranged from Delia for all this time because they were never really tight anyway. But everyone has to go back to the famous house in the small town in Connecticut when the dad dies. Oh, I'm just not even going to talk about how they handle the dad's death because it's just, it's pretty funny. It's just,
yes.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of like, you know, how do we deal with the people we don't want to bring back for this movie? And that's sort of sprinkled throughout this movie, and they pretty much pull it off.
Yes. So they all go back, but you know, Beetlejuice never really left. He has been there all this time, sort of trapped in the model home, waiting to be unleashed onto the world to wreak more havoc and mischief. So it's how different generations deal with Beetlejuice and what he wants from them and what they want from him. We have new cast members like Monica Bellucci and Willem Dafoe. It feels like a lot of different kinds of movies kind of stuffed in together, you know, like at one point, Beetlejuice talks about being able to like cram back into his prom tux. And this all feels like they're cramming everything into that. And there are long stretches where it's like, oh, right, Monica Bellucci's in this movie. Like, oh, right, Willem Dafoe is in this movie. But I feel like Tim Burton does tap back into what made that first movie a lot of fun, the anarchic spirit of it. You and I went back and we rewatched the original Beetlejuice. And one thing that we commented on that we noticed this time is that it's just so scattered. They're throwing so much against the wall and it's so erratic in terms of pacing and in terms of what works and what doesn't. But like that kind of chaos is a feature and not a bug. And that chaos exists here as well, but it is even more uneven. Like I liked this more than I didn't like it. And I enjoyed that there seems to be a reliance on the tactical and the practical in ways that harken to the original.
But you mean the tactile?
The tactile. Tactile. Yeah. Tactile?
Yes, either.
Tactile. You can touch it. It's real. It's not numbers. It's not CGI numbers.
Correct.
So I mean, a lot of like, you know, the makeup work, the Colleen Atwood costumes, you know, it's very the Danny Elfman score. It's very Tim Burton-y in all the ways you want it to be. But then like just some things drag on too long. There's a musical number that drags on too long. And so it's very hit and miss for me, but I had a pretty good time.
Yeah, I am really glad that we revisited the first Beetlejuice before seeing this, because I think that this movie is a bit of a mess, but it's a mess in the way that the first Beetlejuice is, and we love the first Beetlejuice. So, you know, I think in a weird way, he's sort of being true to the spirit of that by not streamlining things too much. I was generally entertained. I was having a good time pretty much start to finish. Even the number of which you speak, I didn't think was too long. It's like, yes, they dig into it and they're splashing around in it for a while, but I didn't have a problem with it. This is the movie we kept wanting Tim Burton to make. And like Frankenweenie, I think definitely got there, but Dark Shadows didn't. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children didn't. But this one does feel like he's really going back to this sort of early, Vincent Pee-wee Beetlejuice era of his career with the crazy stop motion animation and the just sort of reveling in the look and the mood and the tone and the weird humor. And I think we get a little more of the afterlife in this one in terms of just the mechanics of it and the architecture of it, the layout. This movie actually does posit the existence of heaven and hell, which the first one did not. I thought that was interesting. It was also funny to watch a movie with a running gag about Soul Train in Italy with an audience that mostly didn't get it. You could tell where the Americans were sitting during that screening.
You're like, I was alive in the 70s. I understand this reference.
Right. And it aired. I mean, I don't think it's not a show that I don't think aired anywhere else. So I don't think in Europe they have any idea what that even means. So anyway, yeah, I had a good time with this. Michael Keaton is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Often in these sequels, the challenge is like, are we going to treat these characters like characters? And I think they did. Like, I feel like Winona Ryder and Catherine O'Hara get to be more mature. And while they still have a lot of the quirks they had before, there is this sense of history and of a life lived since the first movie. And the fact that, Jenna Ortega and Winona Ryder are sort of estranged kind of lets Winona Ryder reflect on her relationship with Catherine O'Hara, and that kind of surprised me in a way. I didn't know that we were going to be kind of touching those, hitting those buttons, but I think they do it effectively. Yes, not enough Monica Bellucci, or at least they don't really figure out what to do with her. Although there is a thing that happens with her in an early scene that is so the aesthetics of Tim Burton, and I won't go into it.
It's very cool, though.
Yes.
Like all the details and the way it's paced and the way it comes together is very cool.
Yes. I enjoyed that.
It gave me a lot of hope early on.
Yeah. I think Willem Dafoe is having a really good time, and I had a good time with that. So yeah, I Jenna Ortega is totally giving you, a Lydia Dietz for the new millennium. She's maybe not quite as performatively goth, but she's just as deadpan. So yeah, I thought this was really entertaining. It is. If you liked Beetlejuice, you get more of that here, and if you didn't like Beetlejuice, then you're certainly not going to like this one because it's more of that.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega and Winona Ryder are very much on the same wavelength, even though, as you say, they are estranged. Like that DNA connection feels very strong there as far as their attitude, their approach to the world, just their very presence. And that relationship evolves in ways that are meaningful, and I liked a lot. And then Jenna Ortega's character also gets to leave the confines at one point of the house and of all these weird people. And there's a subplot involving her that I thought was paced out really well, and it was suspenseful and it was exciting. And I thought that was full of surprises and cool things in a different kind of way from everything else that we see in this film.
Yeah, they find something new for her to do, and it works in the overall scheme of things. The writers here are the guys who worked on Wednesday with Burton taking over as the writer. I also want to give a shout out to Justin Theroux as Winona Ryder's sort of like sensitive to a fault ponytail boyfriend. He, for a long time, was one of those actors who I never recognized from movie to movie. And I mean that as a compliment, just because he would sink himself into such different characters. And now, obviously, after The Leftovers, like, yeah, I know it's Justin Theroux when I see him, but I think he's still finding new things to play here and being very funny, but doing in a character that I don't think I've really seen him do before. So he fits in the ensemble very nicely.
Stay through the credits.
Always.
Stuff happens.
Yes.
That made me like laugh and squirm and go, ha! There's some gnarly stuff that happens in the credits. So
yes.
Stay for that. What's your number then?
I gave it an 8.8. I had a really good time. It does what it's supposed to do as far as I'm concerned. So yeah.
I will say 6.8. I had fun. I liked it more than I didn't like it, but it does feel like it's just too many subplots, too many things. And you know what's funny? As we were walking out, Nick said to me, I liked it, and I liked seeing Michael Keaton back in this role again, but he feels a little subdued. He feels a little tame. I said, it's just like what Eddie Murphy's doing in Axel F. Right?
Maybe
it's like in that it is a character who was brash and thrilling in its day, and like 40 years later has to have like glimmers of that, but is older. Like has to give you crazy, but also give you like the wisdom of years. Although like Beetlejuice is eternal, I suppose. So anyway. We had fun, but I'm a little mixed on it. So Beetlejuice is in theaters. I just assume there has to be a third one of these so we can all say the name 3 times and conjure him constantly.
I mean, it kind of feels like they've painted themselves into that corner now. So, and now the fact that this one is, I think, going to be a hit probably means that likelihood just got upped. So we'll see what happens.